Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, Nate's Vintage Rails. I've been pondering an idea of making a top 5, 10, or however many favorite locomotive list in a YouTube video, whether that be steam, electric, or diesel locomotives. This idea has been done to death, and as I researched the locomotives, I thought it would be a better idea to make separate videos for each of my favorite locomotives because 1, it allows for more time to explain each engine, and 2, it makes more videos and content. So let's get into the first video of my favorite locomotives with the first pick. Southern Pacific Railroad number 1765. The Southern Pacific M-Class 260 moguls were categorized into 21 separate classes with many different builders and designs, with most dating between the 1880s and the 1920s. The M6 class consisted of 69 locomotives, built by the Baldwin Locomotive Works between 1900 and 1902. These were numbered in two sets, 1725 to 1769 and 1780 to 1803. A set of 10 of the M6 class, numbers 1760 to 1769, were built in December 1901 and delivered in early 1902. These were originally compounds, later rebuilt into regular simple cylinder designs. The class was built with standard tenders fitted with oil tanks for fuel. Later, many would end up with Vanderbilt tenders, and later still, some ended up with the appropriately nicknamed whaleback tenders that Southern Pacific used, and they were called this due to their very round shape. All of the M-Class engines were very good and reliable. All were used in local freight service on lighter branch lines and helper service. Most of these locomotives lasted until the 1940s and 1950s at the end of the steam era on the Southern Pacific Railroad. Some locomotives during World War II were loaned to the Southern Pacific subsidiary Pacific Electric for freight drags, often with steeple cab electric locomotives. One engine loaned from Southern Pacific to Pacific Electric was number 1765. After the war, 1765 remained in Los Angeles and would end up being a significant part of SP's history, marking the end of steam in Southern California. On June 8, 1958, number 1765 was part of the last steam-powered train excursion in Southern California by the Southern Pacific Railroad. In 1898, Cook Locomotive Works 460 number 2248 led the train, and a diesel number 5453 in EMD SD9 was put behind number 1765, and this triple-header excursion traveled from Glendale north to Santa Clarita, then west to Santa Paula on the Santa Paula branch, and on to Ventura. It took the coastline back through Oxnard and Chatsworth to Glendale on the Montalvo cutoff. After the excursion, 1765 was sold to National Metals on Terminal Island for scrapping. In a strange twist, 1765 was not scrapped, yet sat for 8 years, and at the end of that 8 years, she would gain a new life. A resident of Lomita, California, Miss Irene Lewis, was constructing a railroad museum in honor of her late husband, Martin Lewis. Check out my video after this one talking about her and the museum at the end of the video. She was looking for a steam locomotive to put on display. The search encompassed much of the western United States, but one found locally a lone engine languishing in a nearby scrapyard in Los Angeles Harbor. This was 1765. She convinced the city of Lomita to purchase the locomotive and have it be moved to the museum. In 1966, the big move happened. 1765 was delivered to the end of the Torrance branch, a former Pacific Electric route, at Sepulveda and Normandy, now the parking lot of a CVS. Large steel supports were welded to the locomotive frame, and the tender was rolled onto a large flatbed truck. Each was carefully moved down city streets and residential roads to the yet-opened Lomita Railroad Museum. First the tender, then the locomotive were rolled onto the display track with supports removed, and both have sat there ever since. Irene Lewis would pass away in 1990 at 90 years old. Currently, the 121-year-old locomotive still sits in very good condition, especially for a display locomotive, in the small suburb that is Lomita, California, at the Lomita Railroad Museum. Other surviving M6 class locomotives includes 1725 on display in Dunsmuir, California, 1744 at the Pacific Locomotive Association's Brightside Yard, which is under restoration to operation on the Niles Canyon Railway, and 1785 on display in Woodburn, Oregon. That'll be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching if you have made it to this point in the video. Check out my other videos about the Lomita Railroad Museum and 1765. And as always, I'm Nate for Nate's Vintage Trains. Keep it old school, and God bless you all.